Hey, good morning. I wanted to do a quick video just talking about why you shouldn't go with the cheapest contractor on your projects. It's a lot of times where they'll get different bids from different people, different contractors, plumbers, electricians, whatever the case may be, and then they'll compare the three prices and just go with the cheapest one. So they're just really shopping around for the cheapest price. They're not really shopping around for value. Really want to focus on value, because what I find is when you start working with a whole bunch of guys who do cheap work, then they end up cutting corners some way or another somewhere on your project, and it's going to delay the project more than the money that you would have saved as a result of, I guess, saving money on the sticker price, but then you end up paying an indirect cost. So something to keep in mind when you are doing any project management is to be able to discern what value looks like. So that might be looking at somebody's website, looking at their process when you are dealing with them. Are they picking up the phone, right? These are the type of things that I look for as indicators, because typically if they have somebody that can always pick up the phone, then it means that it might not just be them in the business, meaning that they have somebody in the back office who's going to be able to pick up those phone calls and then take notes on the things that you might even mention on that phone call. And then they can redirect you later on or pass that note on to the individual who is responsible for giving estimates or helping you out on the project. Versus when the technician or the guy who's doing all the work is also the owner of the company, a lot of times you find that if he's on the job site, then he's not going to be able to pick up your phone call. But that's not like the holy grail for it. So there's a chance that the guy who's like I guess a cell phone operator, he could still have a attention to detail that he's not going to try to cut corners and stuff like that. But what I find is typically when it's just a one-man operation, he finds a way to, I guess, learn shortcuts for everything. And then as a result, then he ends up trying to, like, I guess, pocket more money. So say it's a project and because you got it at a cheap cost, now he's like, hey, I'm not gonna pay for staples. So, hey, I need some staples. Can you go to Home Depot and pick up some staples for me? And the staples might be $5, but he doesn't want to cover the cost because you're so focused on keeping the project cheap that he's like, yo, I'm not gonna get caught on any additional expenses. So it's almost like a tug of war to see like who's gonna be coming out of pocket for everything. So a lot of times when I'm working, we have labor-only contracts, so I have to go to Home Depot or pick up the supplies regardless of whatever the case may be, just because that's the way that we line up our contracts. But what I find is that if people feel like they're getting paid accordingly, then even if it is in a contract that it is just labor-only, they'll let it be a situation where they'll actually cover some of the materials if they feel like they got the right price on it. So instead of them charging us for like maybe thin set, because we've already gotten like the shower pan that might have been like $600 or $700. Now they're not going to charge us for all of the miscellaneous products that go into getting the project done. So you don't want to keep going, or you don't want to look for the cheapest guys. Another thing I would say as far as like being able to find value in different contractors is you want to look for recommendations, right? Ask them what the timeline is for projects, right? Try to hold them accountable to those timelines. And when you start to see that there's certain things slipping, so if they say, hey, I'm gonna be at this property at this date, and they don't end up showing up at that time and that date, then those are the type of things that I would say you want to keep in mind, because those are the things that are going to end up delaying the project ultimately. And if you don't keep account of those like minor infractions, then they start to add up. All right, so it might be like a 2-hour delay, but because they started 2 hours late, then they also the same one that has to go to Home Depot and get something else. Or now they want to take lunch because they always got to have lunch at a certain time. So just keep in mind that when you are working with these contractors, they got a lot of tricks up their sleeves. And I find that the ones who you're paying the least, those are the ones that take the project the longest, because they operate the business in order for them to get money for that day or that week, and they don't operate the business with the intention of trying to grow it to the point where they have more employees, more vehicles, more accounts. They're really just like owning a job essentially. So I would say try your best if you can to stay away from operating or dealing with people that have that mindset where they don't have a mindset of growth. They're not trying to grow their business. They're just trying to focus on making sure that they can eat and cover their expenses. So some contractors, they'll charge you based on what they need in the moment, as opposed to what the job is actually supposed to cost. So imagine a contractor's like, hey, well, I got to pay my rent, and it's like $1,500. So I'm going to just charge this client $1,500 because it's the only client I'm going to have all month. It's just simple like math that they might have in their mind. And it's not like, hey, I'm going to be dedicating this much time, or the difficulty level, or other people can't do this, or whatever the case may be. It's like no true parameters for how they came up with that price other than what they felt like charging. And then you'll see that their prices fluctuate. That's one of another indicator, right? So if you look at an invoice or an estimate that they give you, and it doesn't have those line items specifying what the cost is, there's a strong chance that when they have this system, they're just coming up with a random price, as opposed to them pressing into their own system that they have for their invoicing, where it says, all right, I'm going to be doing this on the project. I'm going to be installing a hot water tank. All right, let me click this button. Boom. As soon as you click that button, now it automatically populates with the price that it's going to be. And then they have their own set price. So now when you do try to say, hey, well, this kind of seems steep, now they can say, hey, these are my set prices. This is what I charge for this. I mean, this is really hard for me to negotiate because I already know all the other like miscellaneous products that need to go into this, how much time needs to go into it, because on top of me removing that hot water tank, I might also have to dispose of that hot water tank. That's going to be a cost to me. So you might see the line item where it says $1,000 for that, but in that $1,000, what you're not seeing is the fact that I got to dispose of that, I got to lift that by myself, or you know what I mean? Whatever the case may be, there has to be some reasoning behind it, versus somebody giving you an estimate and it just like, say it was $4,000 on the estimate, but there's like 6 line items, but there's no price next to those line items, so you don't know exactly what you're paying for. Those are the guys that I find like those complications start to happen when you are trying to, I guess, negotiate or try to get a project done, trying to find a timeline. Those are the guys where things start going up in the air because they don't have a set price for certain things, so they forget products that they need to purchase. They running back and forth to Home Depot, they going across town and go finish somebody else's project up. So you really want to have something in stone. I would say a contract really helps with being able to I guess regulate a lot of that and then reduce the amount of like flexibility that they might have in moving around on these different projects. Kind of saying like, hey, we had this project planned for this month. If you don't get it done in this amount of time, there might be a penalty, or hey, we'll pay you this much based on this work being done within a certain time. Or even give them an incentive saying, hey, if you do this in a certain amount of time, I'll actually pay you more money. So maybe we give it a month for the whole project. You'll get the $4,000 if you finish at the end, like within the month. But if you finish before that, I'll give you an additional $1,000 if you can get it done in 2 weeks. Something like that, because if you're gonna have something in place for a penalty, you should also have an incentive in place if they do the right thing on that project, not just the penalty. So yeah, that's just something I would just wanted to mention, because it's just something that I'm constantly dealing with, where like the reason why I even thought to make this video is because I had to go pick up like 20 boards of 2x4s because my contractor needs to sheetrock the house, and he also framed or reframed certain areas of the house. And during that time when I was buying the 2x4s and he gave me whatever quantity he needed for that, he never mentioned that he might need some additional for sheetrock, even though he knew he had the contract for the sheetrock as well. So it just adds to the delays on certain projects, because they'll come up with it on the spot. So they'll be on the job site and they think of these things, and then it just delays the project, because instead of him having it yesterday and continuing the sheetrock, now it's a delay where the project can't move forward until I go and get the products, and then he can continue again. So something to keep in mind is be mindful of the contractors that you end up working with. These guys aren't bad guys or anything like that. It's just a matter of just timing. We've already lost a lot of time on this project. This is a project that started last year, but we wanted to make sure that we did things the right way with dealing with the city, getting the proper inspections and permits in place. So as a result, it's already delayed the project. So now we're trying to hit the ground running every time we pass an inspection. So we try to have our contractors ready with all the materials that we need. So every time the contractors come back with more excuses for why they can't move forward, then it just slows down what we're already dealing with from the city. So we're getting delays from the city, and then we're also getting delays from our contractors. So something to keep in mind. But yeah, just had that message on my mind this morning. Best of luck to all the guys that's out there operating their own businesses, going into construction project management, want to be contractors. Just want to keep giving you guys tips, because there's just so many things that I'm coming across in the position that I'm in. And I love the work that I do, and I want to be able to get more people into this position as well. All right, so peace.